Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, curious conversations about the Black and queer experience. I'm one of your hosts, Jordan, and today, Damon Tony and I are discussing the roles we play within capitalism. Today's icon is Angela Davis, a political activist, a scholar, an author. I want to know, have you all ever experienced a situation where you felt judged or valued based on your material possessions?
There was one time that I felt judged when I had graduated college and got that hardtop BMW convertible. And I didn't have money.
So then he asked me, he's like, where do you live? And I was like, oh, I live in Harlem. No lie. He looked at me with a straight face and said, oh, we are not geographically compatible.
Oh, you bitches do that now. When I live in, I could never live in Jersey. I must live in the city.
Well, I can't. So
negotiate that offer. See if you can get more PTO. See if you can get a signing bonus or negotiate the bonus structure.
Yeah.
See if you can get more on salary.
Fuck all that, like being nice. Like we could be very nice. I want to show you exactly who I am and how I can communicate. I work well on the team, but when we're negotiating the salary, I don't have to work with payroll and HR every day to day. So let's go.
This is Cash Rules Everything Around Me.
It does.
It really does.
You know, I posted something recently that said some people are looking for love, for happiness,
And
I was like, but me, I'm looking for money.
I saw that. Was that a tease for this episode, or it was unrelated?
Actually, it just resonated with me
That's
in
true.
a way that was like, yeah, I want love and happiness and all that good stuff, but honestly, like they said, money can't buy your class, as Luann Steps would say from Housewives of New York. But money can provide and make you comfortable, and I want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, today's icon is Angela Davis, a political activist, a scholar, an author whose work around gender, race, and capitalism still permeates pop culture conversations. And you know, speaking of pop culture, I want to play a game with you all about how Angela Davis has influenced pop culture.
Okay.
And her relationship to pop culture.
She's a pop girl.
She's a pop girl.
Since somehow brought Angela Davis into the pop girl.
Well, you know, Angela Davis wanted her, her thoughts and ideas to be a part of popular discussion. So,
okay. Well, can we call this Angela Davis did the thing?
Angela Davis did the thing.
Oh, God.
And that's pop culture for your ass.
So Angela Davis's Afro hairstyle symbolized Black pride during which cultural and political movement? Was it A, the Black Power movement, B, the Afrofuturism movement, or C, the Harlem Renaissance?
The Black Power movement.
Yes. Unanimous yes.
That reminds me of when we did our photo shoot back in the day for
on 125th
season
Street?
2, I believe.
Season 2.
Perhaps, or maybe was it season 1 when we got together in front of the Apollo and did
yeah.
Is
it because I'm Black?
Our Black Panther moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Did I have a baby fro at that point in time?
I'll say a baby.
This whole episode will be about her hair.
We talking about the question is about afros.
Everybody look at Jordan's new hair. It's fabulous, honey. It's fabulous. Shake it, stiff wear.
Well, it's actually up, so you can't really shake it, right now.
It's in a chignon. I'm sorry, it's a formal affair.
You know what? All right. Which visual artist created a mural featuring Angela Davis in the artwork titled Freedom? Was it A, Jean-Michel Basquiat, B, Keith Haring, or C, Shepard Fairey?
I'm going to go with the Shepard, the third one, because I'm not familiar with that artist, and I can't think of the other two using Angela Davis in any of their work.
You said Basquiat and
Keith Haring. And Shepard Fairey.
I know Keith Haring, not personally, but I like his work. I like Basquiat's work too, but I don't recall seeing Basquiat do anything with Angela Davis. So I'm going to say Keith Haring, but it's probably that unknown person.
No.
Well, first of all, Shepard Fairey is not unknown. It's Shepard Fairey. I'm gonna give that to you, Tony. You said it at the end. I think
answered the right.
You answered it the right way, and then I think Tony at the end
I came
was
around.
you came around and said, I think it's Keith Haring, but I actually think it's Shepard Fairey. So I'm just going to assume that you went with your last answer.
The girl's playing favorites.
All right. Which popular song paid homage to Angela Davis? Was it A, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, B, Sweet Black Angel by the Rolling Stones, or C, Changes by Tupac Shakur?
I don't think it was What's Going On because that had to do with more of a
That was a global thing.
a moment. I'm gonna say that Sweet Black Angel.
Yeah, because changes. That's just the way it is. Hey, I'm gonna say it's the
You
Rolling
gonna
Stones.
sing the whole song?
I'm just
before you
making
get
sure.
it?
I'm just
Let me sing it under my breath, child.
Okay. Yes, it was Sweet Black Angel. So, I mean, y'all went 3 for 3, so let's do a tiebreaker.
Okay.
Okay.
Tony
And
didn't get 3 for
since-
3. I won already. This is what I mean.
And since we are on the topic of songs, let's play the song game.
Oh.
Okay. So I'll say a word, and you'll have 10 seconds to sing a song with that word in it. And the first person who was unable to perform a song in 10 seconds loses.
Performance.
Tony, I'm going to have you start first. Let me get my clock ready.
It's a clock in front of us.
Oh, I guess you're right.
She ain't got her glasses on. She like, I can't see.
All right. So, Tony, the word is money. Go.
Money can't buy your class. Miranda Steps.
Okay.
Housewives of New York.
Damon.
Money, 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 money.
Okay.
Money.
Tony. Come on.
Money, power, respect. Money, power, respect. Money, power, respect. What you need, like.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay.
All I need is the money. That Cardi B song.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are the other lines?
Bitch better have my money. Y'all can't do it well enough.
I don't know.
I think we can call it.
The girls are cheating in here.
Okay, well.
I had to be in a tiebreaker for a game I'd already won.
Well, listen, it looks like
I demand a
Tony,
recount.
Tony's the money girl. Obviously. You have been
Money
deemed
girl.
the money girl. How do you feel?
I love that. I love that for me.
Well, you just spoken into existence. You said that that's
Yeah.
what you
That
wanted.
is what I wanted.
Yeah.
So we're going to ride that out. We're going to ride that wave.
Okay.
You know, it's only up here, but they say more money, more problems.
Yes, they do say that. And we have a really big problem with
Oh.
capitalism.
Don't
Okay.
sound like it.
America has a problem.
Let's unpack it. Let's unpack it. But before we get into like capitalism and all those things, I would love to start with everyone's formative years. And so thinking back on your family's financial situation, how was that like growing up? And how do you think that that influenced your relationship with money or your outlook on money?
Yeah, I mean, the formative years were formative. I feel like I thought, and I don't know, you guys may correct me if I'm wrong. Like I was like, at first I was like, I grew up in middle class, but I was like, no, I grew up in working class. Because middle class, I think, requires, it's like folks who have a bit more of education, had like maybe gotten some sort of degree. But my family, I was really like first generation in my immediate family to go to college. So as it relates to like growing up and money, although I never felt poor, I felt like that I was in middle class, but now I'm coming to understand. I think it was more so working class.
Yeah.
But you know, I was rich in other ways. I was rich in spirit. I was rich in experiences. I was rich in health.
Come on, Nene Leaks.
You
was a very rich bitch growing up.
So
Yeah.
I never knew the wiser. You know, I never wanted for anything, but I did as I got older and had to understand more about money. It mostly came from my mother for me. She taught me everything about how to handle money, how to go about saving. She used to always quote my grandfather when he would say, like, you know, you always want to keep a little nest egg or a little piece of change for a rainy day. And so when I was younger, I used to be like, oh, I'm gonna put all my money in the piggy bank. And then like as we got older, you know, that idea, like there's a piggy bank, but it's not like 401k and stuff like that exists. But in terms of actually saving like that emergency fund,
Yeah.
not so well.
Mhm.
Not so well. So, but as it relates to like values around money and stuff like that, like on my dad's side, like he's very generous and he's always like, if I got it, you got it.
Yeah.
And I have an aunt on my mother's side is like, if I got it, I spend it. Like you
Yeah.
can't take it
Mhm.
with you. That mentality, which is
Okay.
because I think people were caught up in like you like that. You only live once. You don't know how long you're gonna be here.
Yeah.
You spend your money, have your fun, get what you want. And that's a little bit antiquated now because people are living longer. We can project that we will have hopefully longer lives. So we should be planning differently and sort of shift that narrative around our values and with money and how we uh, go about, the idea and the process of saving it for a rainy day.
I mean, where do you feel like you lean on? Do you feel like YOLO? Or do you feel like you're like, let me put everything in my piggy bank?
I think
Present day.
there were eras for me. There was the YOLO moments, and I had fun in those times. And there still are some times where it's like, fuck it, let's have a good time. We deserve. I deserve. However, my mindset recently has shifted with the climate of, what's going on in corporate America, which is where I work. There's been a lot of layoffs. Job stability is really
It ain't
non-existent.
stable.
So there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm thinking more about, okay, if the bottom falls out and there's a gap between me having a job and trying to look for a new one, I want to make sure that I can still live the same way I'm living currently in that gap period.
Mhm.
So I'm leaning more towards stowing away some money so that I can still sit with you girls. But I know y'all got me. Y'all don't, right?
I got you. She don't have a line in her spreadsheet for you.
First of all, I do have a line in my spreadsheet for charitable.
Oh,
I love the church game. See, the ghetto.
You gotta, social responsibility. You gotta make sure.
Well, listen, I'll take it. Call it what you want.
Write me
If
off
you
on
gonna
your
be my,
taxes.
I could be your sugar baby.
Hello,
I'm not young enough.
For anyone listening, I am for sale
I am.
because I'm tired. I would say growing up middle class, and I wouldn't say that the working class thing has to do with levels of education. Like my dad had a high school, didn't even have his high school diploma. My mom has a associate's degree. But they kind of built some things on their own. My mom worked in a bank for 40 something years before she retired. My parents ended up, like, my dad went to trade school. They owned real estate, and he would like do all the work for these apartment buildings my parents owned. And my parents' point of view for us growing up was that they grew up on the west side of Chicago with nothing, and they wanted for us to focus on having the experience of being kids up until working. So like I never had a job in high school. I never had to work in college. My parents, for any of us that wanted to go, paid for our undergrad.
Yeah.
Because they wanted us
you middle
to
class, baby.
Yeah. So they wanted us to have the experience of not having to like a lot of times I think people just like, I struggled and I had to work at the grocery store to pay my way through school, and that built character. I'm sure it did. And I think that there are healthy ways that your parents and my parents at least were able to teach us to value people, relationships, and experiences void of money. So I think now as an adult, I find how much money someone, like if I'm developing friends or relationships, I find this to be the least interesting part of someone. It's one of the reasons why I've always hated when people are like, oh, what do you do? And when we get into conversations like that, or even conversations we've had on this show about people we would date and what, where they fall in the economic scale, and like what factors that does or doesn't play into you being interested in those people. And I think that growing up with money not being the focus, I don't like when it gets to the list of things I evaluate in a person, like it's either non-existent or very, very far down. Like I think if you are reckless with how you're spending in a way that harms both our ability to, I don't know, keep a roof over our head or something, that's where we have to talk about it. But generally, I don't know. I always say, I fucking hate money. If it's so gross, it makes human beings be gross. Like like you get tied into working and spending so many fucking hours doing shit you don't have passion for.
Mhm.
And I don't know, that's how I feel about it. I think the more time I spend as an adult where so much of my time and energy is focused on the thing that I have to make money in order to like keep the roof over my head and blah blah blah, it just becomes exhausting and it makes me dislike it more.
Isn't there a quote that says like money is the root of all evil?
The love of money is the root of all evil. It's
the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yes, it's a scripture.
You know, I'm not a religious girl.
Oh, that's from the Bible?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that.
And it's specific that you have to say the love
The
of
love
money,
of
because
money.
people always think it's just money is the root of all, but no, it's the love of money is the root of all evil.
I could see that. But also, when it goes coming back to like that middle class, working class, like I didn't do enough reading to understand fully. Like I was like, what is the difference really? I want to understand that so that I can know what we were. And I still got to go back and look at that. Because even though I have had some privilege, I still, in comparison to our white counterparts, their middle class ain't look like our middle class.
No, that's a different thing.
And so their working class was probably our middle class. What you experienced, like it was for them a working class.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to just go back and do some homework for myself.
But I had the same thought, Tony, when I was thinking about this question, because I didn't know where like my family sat on the scale either. So up until I was about 10 years old, I lived in the same house as my grandmother, my aunt, and my cousin, and my mother and I, we shared the same bedroom until I was 10, until we moved out. And then I shared a bedroom with my cousin. But I never felt like I wanted for anything. Like we were at Red Lobster, we were at Olive Garden. I went to a private high school, similar to Damon. My mom was very clear with me when I got to high school that she had been planning financially for me to be able to go to whatever college I wanted to go to if I was accepted into it. And she would figure out the money situation. But there weren't a lot of frills, which was an issue for me.
This is not right in here.
I watched a lot of TV growing up, and I wanted
She
things.
wanted to be adopted by Daddy Warbucks.
I wanted my little gadgets, and I wanted we didn't really do family trips at all. I remember us maybe going to like the Poconos one time, which if you're living in New Jersey, that's like a little car ride. But I just felt like I wanted
to go to Disney World.
I would have loved to go to Disney World. I went there for my senior trip, but that was different. I got to redo it. But I do remember specifically when I was younger, I asked my mom if she could take me to Taco Bell. And she was just like, we don't have Taco Bell money. I was about 8 years old. And so I didn't like that. It was the summertime. And so what I did is I made these paper accordion fans. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you take like a loose piece of paper and you like, you keep folding it into like different columns, and then you staple or like adhere it at the bottom, and then you can just, it's a manual fan. It's like you could just use it like that. I made about a dozen of them, and I went up and down the street and I sold them for like $1 or $2.
He said, I'm gonna have some Taco Bell money.
And I came back home and I said, I have Taco Bell money.
Oh, bitch.
I was gonna say she beat your ass. I'm sure she did.
She took me to Taco Bell.
Saying embarrassing me on the street.
Acting like I can't feed my child.
First of all,
I think Teresa coming back on for parents don't understand.
I didn't tell the people that I was selling fans to that I was doing this for Taco Bell. I actually had a pitch that was like, it's a hot day and this fan can help you. But
just a scammer.
It wasn't a scammer. It was a very viable product, and it wasn't oversold. It wasn't overpriced. But
$1.
I think the value that I learned very early on was that like, if I wanted the things that I desired out of life, that I would have to work for it. And I felt like I learned that relationship very early on. Like I was like 8 years old or so. And so after that, like I sold candy in middle school. And then when I was working age or eligible to work, I got a job immediately. Similar to your parents, Damon. My mom did not want me to work at all. She just wanted me to be in school and just like not have to worry about being in the workforce.
Yeah.
I was just like, You don't give me enough allowance for you to have that type of thought. So I worked. But yeah, I think that at a very young age, I looked at money as the means for me to be able to have the type of experience that I wanted. And I figured that out through working. And so that's how I built a work ethic at the very tender age of 8.
What you desire, you deserve.
Yeah, Taco Bell money.
So you made it happen.
Listen, we got Taco Bell money, okay? But let's look a little bit more present day. In capitalist societies, Damon, you kind of touched on this. Wealth is often associated with material possessions that serve as status symbols. So where you work, all of those type of things, like the type of car you drive. I want to know, have you all ever experienced a situation where you felt judged or valued based on your material possessions?
You know, when I was thinking about this question, I kept thinking, I work in the fashion industry, and I kept thinking about In The Devil Wears Prada, when he's just like, that's what this multi-trillion-dollar industry is about, inner beauty. And not that I worked in like magazines or publishing or anything, but I think when I first started working, no matter where you are in the fashion industry, they don't pay you shit. And I would look around and everybody's like summering in Cape Cod, or they're going to the Hamptons, and all the girls are like carrying their laptop in a Vuitton bag. And I'm just like, is somebody else getting paid more around here? And even if they were, what I didn't realize, and I when I was researching, and I want to just make sure I get the right number, sorry, but I was thinking about the wealth that people come into this with, and I was looking at the average wealth of a white family versus a black one. Mm-hmm. The average median wealth of a white family is $188,000 versus a black family of $24,000.
Mm-hmm.
So many of these people that I've worked with come from a level of means where when they're going to the Hamptons, it's because their parents own the house.
Right.
Or like living in New York, like we all, particularly black professionals, many of us are first generation students in our first jobs, that where you live, you got to make it. It is now your money. Ain't no more Taco Bell money from your mama. And we all live in Harlem. And then everybody else I work with was like, yeah, I live in the West Village on the Upper East Side. But like people live in either a rent stabilized apartment that their grandmama's had since 1920, or they live in like the basement apartment because their parents own the brownstone. And there was all this shit that I did not understand.
Yeah.
And as it started to come into focus, I was just like, unless I kill myself trying to compete with that, I'm just like, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
And what I decided to lean into, and the thing that I always value the most, is style versus fashion. Like I work in this industry where presenting yourself and making sure you understand style and the complexity of wardrobe is important. But I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it through a lens that shows more flair than shows me just going and buying the latest designer thing and trying to flex on everybody in the office. And I found that as a black person, as a person that grew up in Chicago, that went to Howard, that lived in Harlem at the time, like my level of style and the way I expressed myself, no matter how much money I was buying, made me more interesting, made people listen to me when I talked about it. And it's the thing that even when younger people that want to come into this industry now, particularly people of color, ask like, what do you think is important? And I'm just like, being fucking you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've seen our style and our flair stolen and repurposed by these companies a million times. So if you can come into wherever you are, either independently or in an organization, and have it and show it authentically, I think it makes you stand out more. And that to me became the thing that I would focus more on. And yeah, there are moments where I've like bought myself a nice thing. But like that nice thing is a part of, I would say, a building block versus like a fake aesthetic I'm trying to buy. But yeah, I was so confused by those fucking rich kids. And I'm like, are y'all, even if y'all are making twice my salary, I'm like, something is not nothing here. But yeah.
It's funny because when I think about style and people who have money, it's always the people who are putting on like they have so much and are flashy and over the top that really probably don't really have it like they are putting on to have. And a lot of those people they don't have style. They're just like tacky to me. It's like, girl, it's when you put on label from head to toe, that doesn't mean you have style. That doesn't even mean you have money.
It means you walked in inside somewhere and bought a mannequin.
So that whole thing always trips me up because people go for flashy and label, and they want to put on a facade that they have so much money, and it's just like, who is that for?
It's also like, don't let people that work in my industry fool y'all, because half these niggas get free clothes.
Hello.
I have so many free expensive people. You have all these. I'm like, 80% of the shit I have was free. Yeah. And I don't even work in especially the girls that work in publishing and stuff. You get so much free stuff. So don't be chasing the fashion girls, because the fashion girls are not buying that shit.
Listen, I did an interview at a fashion publishing company, and they wouldn't even see me. I think it was because I had the wrong clothes on.
Probably.
Yeah, they came out and they were just like, "Are you Jordan?" I was
no,
like,
he didn't
yes.
do that, bitch.
I was so excited. And then she walked out, and she came back. She said, "Unfortunately, we're gonna have to reschedule your interview. They're no longer they're now busy in a different meeting right now."
Oh my God.
Never emailed me back again, and I have to assume it was my outfit.
They were like, he didn't dress the part, therefore
that's rude.
It's very rude.
I definitely take a very short interview with a very poorly dressed person and send them home.
And I wasn't even poorly dressed. I think in hindsight, I just feel like I was maybe
pedestrian.
No, I thought I was giving my best. But we'll find the photo. I actually wore a pink shirt with it was very colorful. Maybe that was the issue. I don't know.
Maybe it might have had something to do with it.
I didn't pass the test.
But no, when it comes to being judged for material possessions or where you live, I think that's part of it too. Is where you live. People judge you by when I moved down south from New York to Virginia. That was a thing because people are like, y'all are coming down here from Virginia. It's like you're high society. Y'all got it like that. Y'all have money.
So it's like we were in the Bronx.
Exactly. That's the thing. I was like, I'm in the Bronx, So I've dealt with judgment when I say internally, I'm thinking from family members and also from strangers as well, because people come up to their own conclusions and narrative based on what you look like, how you dress, how you present yourself. And it's like how I was raised, when you walk out the house, you put yourself together. You make sure that you're presentable. And so if that means to others that you've got some sort of money or things, it's like, no, I've just been taught to take care of myself. And when I enter society, I need to look a certain way. There was one time that I felt judged. I don't know if it was by friends, but maybe by strangers or even some family members when I had graduated college and got that hardtop BMW convertible. And I didn't have money. It was a gift to myself for getting through all these years of school. And I was just like, I want this. I was 20 something, 22, 23. 21, I don't know. And I think people saw that on social media. Was it starting to become a thing? And family members seeing that and them thinking, whatever they're thinking in their head. My mom knew the real deal, Holyfield, and so did closer family. But I had an uncle that was like, go for it. Get what you want. And so it was that was in my head. And I was like, I'm going to get what I want. I deserve. But I did feel kind of judged for having a material possession. And even as a kid, when I had I would get the PlayStation for Christmas and the back to school clothes shopping with my family and, wearing nice things and feeling like I was being judged for having those things. And a lot of that taught me that at the end of the day, I really don't place a high value on material possessions or material things. I think people get so caught up on things that they forget more of the humanity, the human aspects of people and individuals and experiences and getting to know folks. They get caught up on how you look. You can't hang out with me if you don't look a certain way, if you don't have the latest this or that or gadget or whatever the case may be. And those folks I feel are shallow and, you know,
fuck those people.
Yeah. So I think I've gotten through my own experiences a greater sense of understanding that material things aren't everything.
I mean, absolutely. However, I just want to put a little footnote on your answer.
But
it was real cute riding around that drop top when we was 22.
I did have a good time.
Listen,
I was like, Tony, let the top down. Let the top down. Let's actually circle the party first and then park.
When I said earlier rich in experiences, that's what I meant, because I wasn't rich. But we did have an experience. We definitely had an experience.
Yeah. I mean, I want to go back to like the neighborhood thing, because that's such a common thing in New York. Like, people ask you, where do you live, so that they can get an idea for how much your household income might be, or how much you might be spending for rent, or if you own, and blah, blah, blah. I remember being invited by a white colleague to this like gay house party in Soho. I immediately was just like, okay, like I need to brace myself for this. Like, these are about to be some, you know,
high class gays.
some white Hampton gays, like, but in Soho. I get to the condo. It's gorgeous. It's a duplex with a private rooftop terrace, like right on like Prince Street. Like, I'm literally like, I walk past it all the time, but I was like, oh, who lives here? This person did. And there's maybe like one other black person there at the whole party, not including the person that I brought with me. And so I'm just like, okay, this is awkward, whatever. I ended up making conversation with this guy who was kind of cute. You know, we was flirting a little bit and stuff like that. And for some reason, he decided to start showing me photos of his like renovations in his apartment. I'm looking at the pictures in his phone. I'm like, this is a really, I'm not saying this to him, but I'm like, this is a really, really like big space. Like, it looks like a big loft space. I'm just like, this is a lot. So then he asked me, he's like, where do you live? And I was like, oh, I live in Harlem. No lie. He looked at me with a straight face and said, oh, we are not geographically compatible.
Oh, that is crazy to me.
I completely gagged. And so I was just like, okay. And he literally walked away.
Wow.
And that's not even the craziest part. It's because, like, whatever. I'm like, whatever. I'll talk to my coworker who invited me there. Like, I'll talk to like my friend who I brought as a as my like buffer for the whole situation. The guy comes back around hours later at the party and like strikes up a conversation with me, asks me where I live again.
Stop.
I think he was really like, I think he was
on the smack.
Yeah. I think the party was above him now. But he asked me again. He said it again. He said, oh, we're not geographically compatible.
We're not geographically compatible.
And what did you say the second time?
I actually, first of all, I would
have pulled the ox out.
I think at that second time, he was actually kind of unhinged. Like, he was just kind of like, people was looking, the host was looking at him like, I think he was being disorderly and stuff like that. But
that geographic thing is so real. Like Damon was saying, when my family down south think, you know, they are like, y'all are from New York, big time. And Damon's like, you live in the Bronx. When I used to tell people that I lived in the Bronx when I was here living in New York.
I remember that.
People would be like, oh. And I would be like, what's wrong? I said, I live in the Bronx, not you.
Even
like
we had to coach the girls when they used to come over, like, no. None of that. We're not shaming people. Or like when I say I'm from New Jersey, they're like, oh, Jersey. And I'm just like, please, like, everyone calm down.
So I don't know. People that's some unlearning. That's a thing that I would challenge folks to do. When people have that like visceral reaction or response to someone being from wherever they are, whether it be somewhere that's outer city or a small town somewhere, and they're like, oh, you're from Kansas City, like our friend Aaron, and people have that reaction. I want to figure out how we can
I don't know, but you bitches do that now. I live in, I could never live in Jersey. I must live in the city.
Oh, I was like, bitch, I don't
Well,
say that.
I can't.
So you the same bitch you talking about. So don't be in here.
No.
It's different.
It's very different.
I'm sure those people had the same reasons too for saying that.
No.
No.
Let's be very clear, Damon. It's very different. Me saying where I want to live is different than me saying I can't be friends with you because you live there. So let's talk
saying where
about
you want
that.
to live is different than you saying where you cannot live. When you say, it's the same thing if saying I like something versus actively saying you don't like something. Because when you actively project that you don't like something, you're looking down on someone else.
No,
yes,
I'm not
I think it's the same thing we had when we had the conversation around fat phobia. When we said there's a difference between saying I like this body versus I can never have that body.
So
it's the same.
No. I think that
verbiage.
this conversation is we're now in a lot of different
No,
directions.
we're not. I think it's about thinking about the verbiage you use when you're describing what you like, and when you describe something you like by telling someone else what you don't like. That is where it becomes a little offensive.
I didn't bring up not wanting to be.
He doesn't like Jersey. I think he said I have to live in the city.
No, he said I could not live in Jersey. I have to live in the city.
Whatever the word. I'm from New Jersey, so let's start there.
Exactly. So
and second of all, I want to just make it very clear. I want to stay in the city because I like the convenience of the city, and a lot of people that I know are interested in moving to New Jersey because there's more space. I don't need a lot of
the Greenpoint. It is not convenient.
Huh? What did you say?
Greenpoint?
Greenpoint is not convenient. That's a place where I remember this conversation.
Greenpoint is convenient. Greenpoint is in Brooklyn. To a lot of things.
I don't live any further from anything else than Brooklyn is.
If you wanted to take public transportation, you're not on the MTA.
You don't have to be on the MTA. The path comes into the city.
I understand how the train
connects to the MTA. It's no different than taking the train to Brooklyn.
I'm not about to negotiate with you on what I find to be convenient.
But what I'm saying is like
convenience is different for the individual.
But convenience in describing the train system is no different. You transfer.
It is different.
How?
What are you talking about?
How? If you lived right at the train at Grove Street.
What time does the path close?
Never. It actually does not.
Don't you have a curfew of when you need to get to New Jersey?
It doesn't. That's if I drive there.
Oh, the Holland Tunnel. There's a curfew.
That's different. Yeah. You don't have a car. We're talking about the MTA.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of different things you have to consider when you travel. Well, you even talk about it too. You don't come into the city as often.
Well, yeah.
I don't come outside that often.
But that's what you like.
Okay. Well, I just want to make it clear that there's nothing wrong with New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. Damon lives in New Jersey. You have a lovely place. I personally would love to stay in the city because I like the convenience of getting to my job in 20 minutes and being around.
I get to my job in 20 minutes from where I live.
Well, good for you. I don't work at the same place as you.
We work on the same stop. You could get to your job from my house in 20 minutes.
We work on the same stop.
It's the same train station, bitch, girl. Like what I'm saying to you is that like everybody, I get so tired of y'all talking to me as if I moved to Trenton. Like New Jersey is a state, not a city, and we talk about it as like where I live as if with this condescension from the city.
I don't know if it's condescension.
It's so much condescension.
Because you
I
actually,
live closer to my job now than I ever did in Harlem, and y'all talk to me about convenience.
On yourself too, as with you being in Jersey, when it comes to doing things, I think that you're less likely to.
You invite me to fewer things. So don't tell me about what I'm
You're talking about moving back to the city.
That's proximity, girl.
You talking about moving back to the city.
I'm talking about how.
Why do you want to move back to the city?
Because my friends treat me like I moved to fucking Botswana because I live in Jersey.
Oh, now it's our friend's fault.
It's proximity.
How about that, bitch?
I don't invite Jordan to any more things than I invite you to.
And I live 9 minutes walking distance away from Tony.
Jordan don't go nowhere. That's different. Me and you went more places.
That's an excuse for everything.
I'm just saying, I know the truth.
You don't know nothing. All right, back to capitalism. All right, so let's talk about work a little bit more. Capitalism often exploits the labor of minority populations for financial gain. And consistently, we see that Black workers are paid less than their white counterparts, despite having the same level of experience or the same credentials. How does this wage disparity impact the way that we navigate our corporate careers?
I think with the wage disparity, we all know it exists. I think having more knowledge about the actual numbers, being more open and transparent and talking to friends about what they make, people who are maybe mentors, people who are higher than you, that you have a relationship with, asking like, what's the number I should be asking for when I get this offer?
Yeah.
If you have any white friends or folks that you are cool with in the workplace, ask them questions about what you should be asking for, even if they are your peer. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not someone who's
Counterpart?
yeah, like
peer?
basically
Yeah.
your counterpart.
Yeah.
Even if they're your counterpart, ask them what they, what's in the ballpark range of what they're asking for, so that you
Mhm.
can see if what you're asking for or where you're at is comparable. I think that we have to be smart in that way, and we have to not be like sitting on our hands or holding our tongue when it comes to money, because if we don't have that information and if we're not asking for it, we'll never know. We'll always be a step behind. And then as we get that information, don't be a gatekeeper. Share it, especially with other Black and brown folks who are trying to do the same thing you are and navigate these spaces. And always, just a negotiation tip in terms of navigating these spaces is, when you get an offer, always negotiate that first offer. Making sure that, again, you're asking the right questions. I think people don't ask enough questions. And then when people, I've seen it far too often, and we've talked about this, where our community, Black folks, will have information and will sit on it and they some folks like being the only Black person.
Mhm.
That's their claim to fame. They want to hold on to something for them, and it's at the detriment to the rest of the community.
Tony, when you talked about negotiating and stuff like that, that brought an idea to my mind, because I think going into the workforce, it was kind of established for me that like Black people have to work twice as hard, and I adopted that. And I went in thinking like, okay, I'm going to combat racism with excellence. Like, I'm just going to be great. Like, I'm not going to make a big stink if they give me the first offer, and it's, like, I didn't even know the first offer. I actually thought that I was rich, so I'd never seen that much money.
Very rich.
And I moved into a luxury building. I was like,
I ain't going to Taco Bell. I'm going to Chipotle.
Okay, with extra guac. But yeah, I think that for the first like 8 years of my life, I think that I navigated the workforce thinking like, I just need to do the best and the most. And so I was volunteering for ERGs. I was doing work on nights and weekends. I was not necessarily making a big point to advocate for a raise or to play hardball in a negotiation for an offer. Honestly, I felt like I was kind of taking on this idea like, I'm just thankful that I'm here, because I know that a lot of people who look like me don't even get to the interview.
That's right.
And I think that it wasn't until about like the 10-year mark in my career where I actually felt confident and feeling like, okay, I can push back on these people and say something. But it took me a while, even with people telling me like, you should negotiate, you should go in there. Like, in the moment, that never happened for me. I was just so intimidated by having that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that, now I look at things and I'm a lot more rigid with the way that I navigate corporate America.
Right.
I'm very strict about nights and weekends. I do not do them. I do not take on extracurricular work for no pay. And
But think about how these things we've learned, right? Think about, again, those coming after us, that we can help impart some of this wisdom so that they have it easier. They know out the gate, like even your first job when you feel like, I'm rich, negotiate that offer. See if you can get more PTO. See if you can get a signing bonus or like negotiate the bonus structure.
Yeah.
See if you can get more on salary.
Yeah.
And so I think I love having that hindsight moment, because then we get to say like, those who we are mentoring and are coming up behind us. I believe that.
Where did you just go? Where did we just go?
Bring back gatekeeping. We're not those girls that want to actually gatekeep this kind of information. And so I feel like we're those people that will pay it forward in the best ways.
Oh yeah. Like I I built a pretty good relationship with a summer intern, Black woman, incredibly smart, incredibly valuable, did a lot for the company to like implement some things while she was in her internship. And I am just so proud at the way that she negotiated her offer coming in full time.
Mm-hmm.
She came in, she let them have it. Her foot was on their neck.
Yes.
And in the back of my mind, I was thinking like, how is this going to play out for you? But I'm like, I'm obviously not saying this because I don't want to like deter any of her confidence, but I'm just like, wow, like at the intern level, what does that mean? I later found out that her father's a lawyer, but like, imagine if, you know, our first generation, you know, Black workers entering into the workforce had that sort of resource at home to like give them the confidence and the language to be able to like
from that point on.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like when you starting here, it's up from here.
And she said that. She was just like, my starting salary, my first full-time job has to be at a certain point, because if not, then I'm constantly going to be trying to close the wage gap.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I close it as much as possible before I even start. So I love that, you know, we are having younger, you know, Gen Z who have a bit more resources or a bit more language around it, and that we can sort of give our knowledge. But it's a challenge always, I think, to speak up in those situations where you feel like you're one of the only there.
Yeah, I think about the conversations that I have, particularly with Black people that I work with, women, other queer people, and there's always this conversation around like, well, should I ask for this once I've done this, or I'm going to do this work to prove this? And I was just like, y'all know we the only people that's thinking that. And I go back to, and I'll just end here because I think you all have hit a lot of the points. The initial salary is for the experience that you bring to the organization. It's non-negotiable. It should be as high as anybody there. Any work you do from there is for that continued employment, and you will never get more money than when you're initially joining an organization or joining a new one versus any raise or promotion you get from all the fucking labor you put in there. So think about that shit up front, because that is the big swing. And fuck all that like being nice. That like we can be very nice. I want to show you exactly who I am and how I can communicate. I work well on a team, but when we're negotiating the salary, I don't have to work with payroll and HR every day to day. So let's go. Let's fight, bitch.
Yeah. So I'm going to end here.
Yeah.
So Angela Davis, she's been a vocal critic of capitalism since the 1970s, advocating instead for a more social economy that places a focus on the society as a whole. So we know that capitalism isn't going to stop tomorrow or because of this, you know, this 1 hour episode. But how do we think that we can begin moving away from individualism and embrace a more community-driven approach to economic growth?
I feel like we, as a community, Black folks, need to band together and have an all for one for all mentality, which we don't have. Everyone's out for themselves. And when they got it, they're good. And it's just like, you know, I'm gonna be good over here in our little pocket. Like they struggling, but you know, let them struggle. Like that's we gotta preserve what we got over here. It's kind of like that scarcity model of moving out of lack instead of operating in abundance. And I with that, we need to be buying Black. We need to be pouring back into our communities. We need to be consuming our own content. We need to be supportive of each other's projects. And if we're going to buy Black, and if we're going to support each other, and if we're going to do all of those great things, we also need to show up with a level of care and delivering quality content, service, whatever it is. If I want to buy Black, I do want to buy Black. But when I buy it, I need you to deliver. Yeah. I want the same quality experience that I'll get anywhere else. And with that, I have just a few stats to go along with this. I'm digital today, ladies.
Oh.
We're in a new age now. So I found this on businessdit.com, and it says that Black consumer buying power is projected to reach $1.8 trillion by this year, 2024. The media consumption of Black consumers is 13.4% higher than the national average. And Black people were 42% more likely to respond to mobile ads than the rest of American population. And compared to 26% of the population, 52% of Black people find in-store shopping relaxing. What does that tell you? We got a lot of buying power. And with that buying power, let's buy Black.
Right now.
No,
And that's the good news.
and that's the good news. I bought Black. It's a Black-owned brand.
I love that.
It's called Every Nigga Deserves.
End.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I saw that. I thought it was in clothing. The UK.
The back of my shirt says, I think it says Every Nigga Deserves Peace, or
I like that.
I've worn some of the other stuff on here before, but anyway, the point that I want to make is, one, I hate capitalism, and it exhausts me more and more every day. And what I think about, like, we all have to be in some type of, let's say, system to have some level of order in the world, some rules we agree to for sharing goods and eating and so on and so forth. And I think the goal of capitalism, and like the goal of any system, should be to protect the people in it. The goal of capitalism is to protect the system itself. And I think that system is often focused around weeding out inefficiency. And the most inefficient thing in any economic system are people. Where, like, we have all our personalities, we have all our quirks, we want to learn this, we don't want to learn that. And I think that instead of refocusing the system around like what people need, I think that focus on efficiency should change. It's not just efficient to make more money or to be quicker at work or so on and so forth. It should be efficiency in how we find better ways to be kinder to the environment. We should find more ways in how we can provide healthcare in a more sustainable way to people. It's about finding ways in which more people, and we look at communities that are living below the poverty line, and how we can utilize the skills in that community in a way that helps lift those individuals as well, and doesn't just make more money for a tight few at top. And or does it require a system that doesn't require going into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to go to school, if maybe that's not the route that you want to take? There should be more means and ways in which you can access stability in your life. And I think that to me has consistently been the issue I have with capitalism. Like, it's about just protecting the system, making more money for the bottom line, protecting the company, more so than it being a system that just creates some level of peace in the world and like makes all this shit not melt down.
Yeah. It kind of it's unfortunate that GDP, which is our system to evaluate the value of different companies, is purely on our ability to make a profit, and it has no, like, there's nothing included that talks about like the quality of life of the people who live in it. It's truly just down to what is the profit. And that's what everybody's racing for, is like who has the best GDP. So I 100% agree with that. The one thing that I'll end on is just talking to the people who exist in corporate spaces and who are at the place in their career where they have decision-making power and potentially budgeting power, is not only supporting minority-owned businesses when you're working on projects and things like that, but also really being a leader in pay equity. So I'll just give a really, really quick example. I was working on a project where we reached out to a bunch of creatives to ask them to provide us rates to participate in this creative project. I'll say that almost every white creative presented a figure that was larger than the budget that we had and fiercely negotiated their fee. I remember specifically one Black woman creative gave us a rate that was so low and completely undervalued the quality of the art that she produced, that I ended up going to my superior and saying, like, I want to bring them 4 times up past their fee. And I think that in some instances, companies, they reward you for saving money. You know, I think that a lot of people will see that fee as an opportunity to be like, oh yes, like we can do this for less, and like I'll be a hero because I was able to get this project off the ground for 20% less than the budget, and blah, blah, blah. I'll get a gold star. But that's not, you know, we need to be more social with these things, and we need to make sure that we're like paying people equitably, and we're making sure that we're being transparent about those things. It just really bothers me that so many of our people either don't know or don't feel comfortable negotiating fee because they're just happy to be there and be considered. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we're educating them, to Tony's part, not gatekeeping this information, but letting them know, like, hey, your market value is so much more than that. And I'm going to set this as your fee. And I want you to make sure that when you're talking to any other company, anything less than this is taking advantage of your work. And so with that is all the time that we have this week. This season of Surface Level is presented by Moby, Mobilizing Our Brothers Initiative. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And remember, stay curious.